Hi, Glacier. There's something weird going on my side. Am I live? Can you see my intro screen? My Twitch dashboard says I'm offline, but OBS says I'm online. That has me a little worried. Okay, well, hopefully that resolves because the thing says offline over there. Ooh wee. Internet might be chugging a little bit today. I'm running an ad now. I guess I'll chit chat while it's going. Ooh wee. Something's up over there on the old Twitch. How's it going, guys? Hi, Bookwoman. I'm gonna post do my diligence, post my go lives. Obviously, you can also both hear me as well because you responded to my question, so that's good. Yeah, the new fridge. I've already got something that I'm going to have to do something about. It's white. Rhea, hi. Well, you'll see when I go live, or when I change the thing. So I normally don't chat during this part because I get real distracted posting stuff. Also, let me know if you hear anything. The new fridge does make some noises. They're very soft, but they're different than the old fridge. So let me know. I don't know that I could do anything about it, but let me know. Let's see. Me. There's the fridge. Look, it's different. Glacier, you're first. Congratulations. Rhea, you're not first. Congratulations. Chemical. I haven't seen you in ages. You're not first. Congratulations. Get on in here. New fridge. So the thing I noticed when I turned the camera on here, because the old fridge was black, this fridge is white. It's affecting the color or the light balance, the white balance, not the white balance, but the it's the brightness on this camera, because there's this big white square in the frame now. It's definitely more spacious than the old one. It doesn't feel like it's taking up that much more room to me, but it's definitely more spacious on the inside. So it no doubt is taking up more space overall. I feel like I'm gonna have to put something here. I think it being white also makes your eye drawn to it more, so it looks bigger in the frame. We can do a side-by-sides later with all of the hundreds of hours of footage I have of me standing next to the old one. Anyways, yeah, so I want to put something here to sort of break up that big white. We'll figure that out later. I haven't moved any of the magnets back to it. They all got moved to the mini fridge over there. Put something there. Figure it out. It's a nice big white space to put stuff on. It's way more spacious. The freezer, which was previously overstuffed, now has all this extra room. So it definitely has more freezer space. I feel like it has about the same total fridge space, maybe even a smidge less. So I think it's more freezer, less fridge, but more total as well. So it sort of evens out. How's everyone? It's running right now. If you can hear it at all, you'd hear it right now because it's currently running. The air conditioner is also running in the other room, so you might hear that. That's actually louder. No, it's real quiet. It occasionally gives me a little hum, but it's like real. There's no fan. I can't really show you the back. There's no fan on the outside back for this fridge. It's a different style. The sides get warm, and that's how it radiates its heat. There is still a little compressor down there that gets kind of hot, but I guess they don't need a fan for that. They just pump it out on the side. So the sides here get a little bit warm to the touch. That might make my kitchen a little bit less chilly in the winter as well. Here's hoping. But I have to be mindful then not to put stuff on top that might be like, I wouldn't put a piece of chocolate up there because I think it might melt, because it's just like, it's warm to the touch, which means it's slightly above hand temp, and chocolate will melt in your hand. So not above body temp, but it's a little bit above hand temp when it's running, and then when it stops running, it cools off. Anyways, yeah, otherwise it's a fridge. They had to take the door off to get it in, and they had to disassemble it to get it in, and then they had to disassemble the old one to get the old one out. So that was fun. That was fun. Today, I didn't really have any ideas, so I dragged up an old one. Baozi. Those are the Chinese steamed buns. Those little squishy, steamy guys. MJ, you're not first. Congratulations. If I stand here, it brightens up the panel a little bit. I have a recipe that I've actually definitely used before because I saved it. From the Walks of Life for steamed pork buns, Baozi. I'm not doing pork. We're going to mess with the filling, but I'm using them for the actual bun part, which we need to do first because it needs to rise. So that's going to be step one, and then we can think about everything else while it's rising. So let's slide to the right over here. Also, hold on, I got distracted. Glacier, you resubscribed. You did that right away. You came in hot. Oh, I was going to pin my my Discord as well. Pin. Glacier, thank you so much for the 4 months, 3-month streak. Amazing. Amazing. That's almost a year. Red bean. I don't have red bean. And I've actually already started thawing out something, so we're committed to that thing that I'm thawing out because I'm not going to refreeze it. I've committed to I've committed to veal because it was in my freezer. And also cheese. We're making French Chinese steam buns, I think. Kinda. It's gonna be something. It's gonna be something. But step one is make the dough. And I'm cutting the recipe in half. So we will have to do a little bit of math as we do. Fortunately, this website has a thing where you can tell me, cut the recipe in half. And now it gives you some weird fractional things that you then have to work out, but a lot of them, it just scales it down. So I need 3/4 of a cup of warm water, 2.5 grams of yeast. I don't know that my scale is accurate enough for that. And a teaspoon of sugar to wake up our yeast. So we're going to run our tap, just hot tap water. That should be plenty hot for the purposes here. And then it's 1.5 teaspoons, so 3/4 of a teaspoon of yeast. Which I am definitely only kind of adhering to. Okay, well, I just noticed the edge here, because I have a habit of grabbing the edge of the door instead of the handle, and I just grabbed where I normally grab to open up the fridge, and that's the bottom of the freezer. So the freezer is definitely taller. The bottom of the freezer is lower than the old one. That stuff with long tiny whisk. Oh, you guys haven't met the new tiny whisk family. There's a new family of tiny whisks in town. This is long tiny whisk. And then we need, and this I am going to weigh out, which is why I got the scales, 300 grams of flour. Well, 290 grams of flour. Slightly awkward amount of flour. And those are all the ingredients. So how's everybody doing today? How has everyone's week been? Missed you all on Monday. Would have liked to have been here, but boy, the racket come out of the fridge was something serious. Perfect. We will keep the tower of flour handy, just in case, because I probably need some for dusting, because we've got to roll these guys out. And that's all the ingredients of our buns. They're very straightforward. There isn't even any salt in the actual buns. We need to let this part wake up and get foamy. Probably should have gotten some new yeast. These are those same yeasts from before, the ones that we've had trouble waking up in the past. I'll introduce you to Tiny Whisk family. And of course, big whisk. I don't know what we're going to do with all these whisks, but we've got them now. Let's see, just used that one. Those ones are clean. Okay, let's see. Meat is thawing in the sink. I have cabbage leaves. We need a skillet. We need a fairly large, but not enormous skillet. Ooh, ooh. We need to. I think we need to give that one a vinegar bath. It's got a lot of that spotting starting on the bottom. Oh. Supposed to let this stuff sit for 15 minutes. Is it even still warm? It is. It is. It's just waking up very slowly. It's supposed to be instant yeast, and it's just kind of old. Old instant yeast behaves a lot more like standard dry yeast. So what's everybody up to? What's everybody having for dinner? I don't know what to talk about. I don't know what to talk about. I don't have any big revelations, and I'm waiting for this yeast to wake up a little bit. Put my timer back on the fridge. We can reassemble some of the fridge stuff while we're waiting. My measurements chart. That should actually be out here so that I can use it. Oh, and then I have to decide if I want to use the... I have a bamboo steamer, but I've only got one layer, so I can't do like a whole big thing. Summer is ending. The tourists are moving on. Quiet weekend. Easy peasy frozen pizza. Easy peasy frozen pizza. I haven't done a frozen pizza in a while. I've done those take and bake fresh pizzas. Aldi makes a very fine take and bake fresh pizza. It's starting to do that thing where it visibly changes. So the yeast is waking up. We will give it a little bit more time. I want it to be nice and active before I start adding flour to it. As for the filling, The standard filling is, for a pork bun, is pork. And then a sweet, salty mix sauce and a bunch of typical Asian aromatics. So your scallions, ginger, things like that. I feel like we can stick to similarities with that because veal is quite fatty, like ground pork. So we can lean into that and make sort of a similar consistency. And then I can swap out some of these things. Some of these things I don't know what they are. I don't know what some of these ingredients are. I don't know what ground bean. What is ground bean? Oh, it's just a jar of stuff called ground bean sauce. Don't know what that is. Don't know what that is. Don't know what that is. I want the meat to be very not frozen in the middle though, which it still is frozen in the middle. We're thawing it in a cold water bath in this sink. It'll add a little bit more water. Get it circulating a little bit. Yeah, the yeast is starting to wake up. Such an exciting beginning to stream we have here. Literally watching yeast. A bookwoman, I think Glacier was probably asking about the flavor, not the brand. It's more exciting than watching paint dry. Fair. I don't know how much you can even see it. It's developing that kind of mottled texture, that mottled appearance. So at the moment I don't have a thing to do because I want to wait for this to get to the point where it actually starts producing its own little bubbles. And I want the meat to thaw completely before I try to cook it. So that's just gonna have to sit there for a while. I suppose I could assemble other ingredients. I got this interesting thing that we're going to crack open and use today. There was a big bin of cheese end cuts, which are just like they sound. When they're making nice blocks of cheese to wrap up and sell you, some bits don't line up quite well, and they chop them up, and sometimes they sell them as just these type of things. And the one I got here was Gruyere, end cut Gruyere. So I want to include Gruyere in this as a cheese component. I wasn't going to add cheese, and then I asked in Ren's stream, just not even an hour ago, for ideas, and someone said cheese. So so I immediately incorporated that into my idea, and we're now going to have cheese. Cheese, veal, onion, maybe a little bit of beef stock. Oops. Slam that door. Probably still going to include scallions and ginger, because I think those go really well. But we'll probably avoid the oyster sauce because we'll use a beef stock instead. And then instead of a Shaoxing wine, I've got sherry. I've got a dry sherry. We could use that. Sorry, I've got a very dry sherry. It's not even a dry sherry. It's a very dry sherry. Marked down. First it was marked down to $8, then it was marked down to $5, and then I bought it. Okay, so dry sherry. What else is in the actual one? Scallion, cornstarch, sesame oil, white pepper, oyster sauce, ground bean sauce, white sugar, sweet bean sauce, dark soy sauce, Shaoxing wine, an onion, ginger, vegetable oil, water, and the meat. White pepper, we'll do black pepper. Ground bean. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. Ground bean. Oh, it's a kind of bean. Okay. What that is. Sweet bean. So we want sweetness, saltiness, savoriness. If I use beef stock or beef powder, sweet elements that are more akin to French flavors. Chili Crispies. We could do Chili Crispies. Let's see, garlic. Let's see. I'm just looking to see what jumps out at me. I've got some sesame oil. We could use some sesame oil. I don't really have another. Well, I do. I have a walnut oil, a toasted walnut oil that would give us a different flavor profile than sesame. I haven't even opened it. I got that on discount too. Hot dang. Cheese is going to give us a lot of. So probably skip the oil because the cheese is going to give us more fat. So we'll definitely skip the neutral oil. We won't need that. The problem is oyster sauce and sweet soy sauce and the two bean sauces are all sort of fermented savory flavors. And I don't have a good European equivalent to a fermented savory flavor. Because even the sweet soy sauce is soy sauce plus sweet. What's a good stand in there? What's a good stand in there? There's an idea. 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 Oop. It goes from not being able to see what they are to there they are. Look at them. That might be what we're doing, though. Because those are fermented. You guys can find out what those are on my time. They're black garlics. And then we want this to be kind of saucy. But not super saucy? Ooh, it definitely bubbled because when it picked up, it audibly fizzed at me. So we're going to start adding stuff. It's time. The time has come. So, confusingly, the recipe says add it a half a cup at a time. Jay! Hi. How's it going, Jay? Welcome in. Get my wooden spoon ready and my large whisk. This first one is going to be mostly still soup, I think, but let's get it all hydrated before adding the next one. Yeah, this one's going to come out like the consistency of paint. It says add the flour half a cup at a time, kneading in between each half cup. Yeah, knead this. So I assume it just means it wants it to be mixed. Because it'll have us kneaded at the end as well. But hey, Jay, how's it going? What's up? We're making bao, and we've decided on French flavors for some reason. Well, not for some reason, because we've decided on French flavors because someone in Ren's stream suggested that I do cheese. And when I looked at the cheese that I already had on hand, the only one I had was Gruyere. And then I looked in my freezer, and the meat that I had available was veal. And I know that's not exactly the Frenchest thing in the world, but there you go. That's sort of the thought process that I had. You got a spatula as well. As this thickens up, I don't know where I was going in that sentence. The sentence completely went out of my head as soon as I got to the word up, which is why I just stopped talking, waited for the rest of the sentence to happen, and it didn't happen. Something about switching tools, I think, was where I was going with it. Yeah, okay. It's way easier to do it that way. We need this to knead together, but we also want it to live in this bowl, so I'd rather not turn it out if I can get away with that. Really hard to knead inside the bowl, though. Put that guy there. Still sticky enough to pick up the loose fragments, so we are still in the realm of it's adding to its mass. And we don't need to necessarily add all of the flour if it develops a good texture before we get to the very last bit. We can leave a little bit out. At the moment, it's dry enough that it's not adhering to the table at all. But we want it to be nice and fully incorporated and smooth. That's the goal here, but not like sticky. It seems pretty good right now, actually. In a large mixing bowl, completely dissolve, blah, 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 blah. Add the flour half a cup at a time. Knead for about 15 minutes. Dough should be soft, not sticky, not too firm. Once the dough is even and smooth, form it into a ball. Cover it with a damp towel. Let it proof for 1 hour. If kneading by hand, knead the dough until it's as, quote, until it's as smooth as a baby's butt. Now, I've never touched a baby's butt, so feel like that's a loaded comparison. But, you know, what we're shooting for is smooth. Smooth, well incorporated, bouncy. Your bao bun is supposed to have that nice sort of chew, that sort of bouncy chew to it. And you get that by kneading your dough. This is not sticky at all, so I don't think I'm going to add any flour to it. We'll reserve the remaining flour for flouring our rolling pin down the line. Look at that form. The kneading form. I need to practice making more breads. Not just because they're tasty, not just because I feel like I am unskilled with a variety of breads, but because it's a good workout. And you get the reward of bread at the end of your workout, unlike, say, exercise workouts, where the reward at the end of your exercise is that you get to stop exercising. Oh, sure, you could reward yourself with something at the end, but that something isn't a product of the exercise. It's just something else that you've added on. Making bread. The bread is the exercise, and also the end product, and also the reward. I'm going to proof it until it doubles. I'm going to put it in the front window where it is nice and warm, though. So it might not take a full hour. Either way, we're going to check on it after we have done our filling. We're gonna knead it up, and then we're gonna do the filling. Can I post a link to the recipe? What? Delete that. What? Why did it... Okay, how do I delete... It cannot time out the broadcaster. I know I don't want to time out the broadcaster. I just want to delete that message. So that's the link that I saved. But that was a link to my disk. This is the one. This is the actual one. Okay. Good thing there's nothing incriminating in my in my file path there. Good thing I didn't use my actual name in my file path there. That would be a good way to dox yourself. Huh. Well, turns out when you save a link, the URL is the path to the save, not a path to the link. I think we're nice and smooth. If I stretch it out a little bit. Not quite. What other flavors do you think? We don't want to go too crazy with it. We can also do a sauce to add to our flavor nonsense. Little bits sticking. Not a ton, but enough that I would rather it not do that. Anyways, that's nice and smooth, soft. It's not going to bounce back because it's really tense right now. But we form it into a ball. We plunk it in our bowl. And we cover it with they say a damp towel, I say plastic cling wrap, which will have the same function of preventing it from drying out. Then we will take this up to our front where it's nice and toasty warm in the window, but it's also not getting blasted with direct sun because I have the blind closed. I'll get the gunk off my hand. And we'll check on that meat, because that's the next step. Ooh, I don't have my hand towel. I had to move my stove camera when the fridge guys were here, which means my hand towel, which normally hangs off of the handle, also had to go. Bookwoman, bookwoman, bookwoman. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? 34 months. 34 months. That's almost a year. Crazy. 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 Thank you so much. Okay. Bowl. We're going to look at some slightly freezer burned meat. Some of my freezer meats have gotten a little on the burned side. What is that emote? You must have got that from a hype train. Behold. Cube meat. Since it comes in the cube, and it's a little bit freezer burned, and it's a little bit frozen in the middle, they're supposed to be that color. It's one a little bit gray. I'm going to break it up with my hands, especially the middle bit, because there's still a little bit icy right in the center. And I don't want there to be a big icy chunk that we're fighting with when it goes in the pan. I've talked in the past about veal. I know that there is a lot of fraught moral and ethical questions around it. I do look into the companies that I purchase from because there are ethical producers. I'm confident that this one is one of those ethical producers. But I can also tell you that I have personally seen out in the real world the other kind, the confined kind of farms. So they're definitely still out there. So if you are purchasing, I would suggest, and I suppose if you're purchasing and you care about that kind of thing, I would suggest doing your research on the origins, the source. To make sure you get one that you are comfortable with. Can the new fridge play Skyrim? It cannot. It is actually a very basic refrigerator. Hi, Zelda. How are you? What is up? I would shout you out, but my hands are meaty, covered with meat juice. We're making sure that the frozen chunk in the middle is not a chunk, so that when it goes in the pan, it is able to cook. If you're not familiar, those of you in chat, especially you, Zelda, with Zelda, check her out. Plays mostly my time games. Okay. That's broken up. We're going to wash our hands again. We're going to add some flavors to this biz. The fridge. Oop, the fridge. That one. There it is. Nice basic refrigerator. It doesn't go like the old one did, which is a market improvement. Okay, what are we going to add to that? We're going to want some diced onion. Do I have a shallot? I have no shallot. So we're going to use yellow onion. Oil, ginger, onion. Cook those, then add the meat. That's what they want us to do. I'm going to add some seasonings to this. Garlic powder. Oop. Onion powder. Beef powder. The 3 essential powders. Get the pan heating up with a little bit of olive oil. Don't need too much. Just a little bit to get us started. Push this guy aside. Like I said, I'm sticking with the ginger idea. And we're going to chuck in half an onion. How much ginger do I want? Not ton. We're going to take off a little dried up end. Yeah, and then we're going to use about that much. I know ginger is not a big French ingredient, but I think it would be if it was native to their region. It would have been incorporated much sooner in their culinary adventures and become a major ingredient, because it's delicious and nutritious. I don't know why I'm doing this with the smallest knife I could find, but that is apparently what I've committed to. Don't use teeny tiny knives to cut teeny tiny things. It makes them a lot harder to do. Okay. Sliding over to our here. With our heat already on, we're going to start sizzling off our ginger. And we're going to very quickly get a bigger, better knife. Add half this onion to it because the ginger does not have enough volume to take up all of the heat and is likely to start to burn if I leave it alone like that. Especially since I minced it quite small. There we go. Nice loud sizzle, a lot more moisture in the onion. Helps take up some of the heat from our pan so the stuff doesn't cook quite so fast. Cook this down until our onions are translucent. Shameless plug. Thank you, bookwoman. I have not myself done any sort of sub pushes. There's some garlic powder in the meat mix. I could add some fresh. The moment there's none in there, we could add some fresh. The original recipe does not call for any garlic, which is kind of strange. But the original recipe is also not the thing I'm making here. So, also the one I linked to you, I noticed that it's an updated version. The one I'm working from is older than that by some years. But we can throw in a little bit of garlic. Also make sure that we're not burning any of this. Oh, that's right. I was going to add some black garlic. Because I wanted some of that fermented funk. Join me back over here. Just minced some standard garlic. But I did mention and got it out, and it's sitting right here next to me, and I'm looking at it, and then I forgot about it. We were going to add some black garlic, which when you get the skins off look like that. because so many of the flavor ingredients in the Chinese version of this are fermented. Oh, this stuff is sticky. So I was looking at things that are fermented that I could add. And black garlic is fermented garlic. It also forms this sticky nonsense. We are gonna burn my vegetables if I'm not careful. Okay. Evening. Howdy. There's a snake in my boots. I know how to soup. We could add some natto, except that I don't have any, and also I hate natto. But other than those two things, it's a great idea. I have no idea if this is going to be able to be incorporated very well. Black garlic is just so sticky, and typically you don't mince it, you paste it, you mash it with the flat. Okay, the meat needs to go in that bowl right now, so. So no more waiting, the meat goes in right now. Things were getting a little toasty. Honey. Sweetness is definitely a thing I need to think about because some of those ingredients were quite sweet as well, and none of the things I've added are. We're also going to be adding some dry sherry after this cooks down a bit. And we're going to hope that those pieces of black garlic that I just threw in soften up enough that they can be kind of mashed into it. Honey, let's see. Molasses is also an option, but honey, we could do a little bit of honey. We could do a little bit of honey. We're not going to add it in. We probably won't. We'll probably add the honey in after we take it off the heat because I don't really want to cook out the honey if I add it. Black garlic. We never use the black garlic. We never use it because despite how much I love the flavor of black garlic, I find it really, really difficult to work with. I know you're supposed to like mash it with the flat of your knife into a paste, and then the paste will actually incorporate into stuff, but boy, I don't like doing that either. A lot of liquid is coming out of our meat, which is good. That is both water and fat. And then we want to cook away the water, leaving a fairly greasy thing at the end, but then we can take advantage of that and thicken the remaining fat into a sauce with some other ingredients. But when you're cooking meat like this, you want to make sure to not forget about it, because you want to break up these lumps. If we don't break up the lumps, then we don't. Well, then they bind into big pieces. That's how you make a burger patty, for example. But we're not looking for that. So we just want to make sure we're not forming any large masses in here. Tell you, it smells like it's been in the freezer too long. If you know what I mean. It's got that kind of... Oh, I never adjusted... Well, you guys have been looking at the dark this whole time. I never adjusted that one. It's supposed to be that color, not dark. It's so dark. No one said anything. No one said nothing. Okay, while those guys are sizzling away, we're going to grate some cheese. Do it right on the board there. That'll be fine. Slide over here. Oh, actually, first we're going to open some cheese. First we're going to tear chunks of plastic off of the cheese container. Apparently putting cheese inside of bao is a thing. We're not just making that up. Oop. They are these sort of thin, layered pieces. Because it's end cuts. That seems like a good amount of cheese. We don't want this to be like mega cheese. You sit in a room with the lights off and the blackout curtains. That's kind of sad, Bob. Hi, Bob. Welcome in, Bob. Way to bring down the mood. I mean, I know what veal smells like. This has a little bit of a... I mean, it was visibly freezer burned. I will also say that. It was visibly freezer burned. So, a quantity... I want to say about 2 cups, but not packed. So probably about 1 cup if I really packed it in of shredded cheese. Remind myself what Gruyere tastes like. Mmm. Mmm. It was the old fridge. Ooh, something's happening. You know what is going to help the smell? The sherry. It's the reason that the Shaoxing wine is in the original recipe. Alcohol helps take out some of those off smells. It's used in Chinese cooking. We've talked about this once before. It's used in Chinese cooking for things like pork and fish to take out the porkiness and take out the fishiness. And it's used for wild game to take out the gaminess. It's why Shaoxing wine is used so extensively in meat dishes. And it's the same logic why aquavit is used in gravlax. It takes some of the slight fishiness out of the fish, which is very important for something like that because you're never going to cook it out. Splash of dry sherry. Generous grinds of black pepper. Dollop of honey. Oh, well, honey was a good pick. Honey's so tasty. Honey's so tasty. It's so nice and tasty. Just a smidge of the sesame oil, because I do want some of that sesame oil. Mix all this stuff together. Looking pretty good, looking pretty good, looking pretty good. A little bit more beef powder. Splash of water to turn that beef powder into stock. Anyways, how's it going, Bob? And how's it going? Soup? I didn't really properly greet either of you when you rolled in. You get so distracted in the cooking. That we don't do the other part. The streaming. Okay, we're going to cook off the remaining liquid. And we're gonna do a little cornstarch mix to make the stuff seize up. But we should taste it before we do that. Dehydrating 50 eggplants. I don't know what to do with dehydrated eggplant. I'm gonna be honest. What do you do with dehydrated eggplant? Stew. That needs something. But what? I have to remember that it's gonna have cheese in it as well. It's gonna have cheese in it as well, so I have to imagine a future realm in which it has cheese in it when I'm doing its flavor. It wants more savory complexity. Which we could get using some of those ingredients that I vetoed. Boy, a splash of fish sauce I think would do this wonders. Hoisin yeast, olives. No olives. Capers? Where did I put the capers? Oh, everything's slightly different. Everything's slightly different than it used to be. We're heading in a more European flavor direction with this, Bob. That's sort of our conceit. But it means we're having to play around a little bit. Throw in some capers. That'll give us a little bit of acidity and a little bit more salt. I think it's undersalted, actually, which makes sense because several of those things that I didn't add are both fermented and salty. I don't want to massively oversalt it by just adding a bunch of salt. I could add more beef powder, but then I think we're going to be leaning away from the flavor of the veal and into the flavor of the beef. Red wine vinegar, walnut oil, slamming doors. One of you said chili Krispies, and I think it needs... I'm not going to put the spicy element in there. I think we can use that in a dipping sauce, because we're going to want a sauce to go with this. Let's get some cornstarch on the go. Let's also give it a taste now that it has those capers in it. It's not a big change, but I think it tipped it right into where I wanted it to be. So I think I should stop messing with it. Cornstarch. I got it out, but then I walked all the way across the room to set it down, instead of putting it down in a sane place, like a sane person would. The tone of the sizzle has also changed, which means we're out of water and we're just frying in rendered fat, which is also the time when you want to do the thickener, because stuff will start to stuff will start to fry, like deep fry in its own fat, and also start to really stick. Okay, heat off. Heat off and also off the heat. Bring us back. Set the cheese aside. Set the cornstarch back in the thing. I added a scoop of capers, and then we did the cornstarch slurry to thicken up the fat. Because it's going to have cheese, so we are not... I don't want to go real ham on it. Ooh, ham! No. Because again, we're trying to go for European flavors today, which of course is why I'm going to get out a couple of scallions and a big knife. Yeah, I bought some scallions because I wanted to use a lot today, and these roots are a little bit too dried up to think about replanting. Also, this isn't really a good time of year to be planting fresh or even not fresh scallions. Because the herb boxes are already pretty crowded. Ooh, a little bit dried at the top, but I'm going to go all the way, all the way, all the way. All the way. I've done better, but I've done worse. They come back and they all get dunked directly in our meat. And stirred through while it is still warm but off the heat. They'll wilt a little bit, but they should retain more of their brightness. Adding scallions to the mix when it's cooking really kind of takes the wind out of their sails. They cook down quite fast and lose a lot of their freshness. Having them be completely raw is often not very appealing because they still have that sort of hot element. I think we have too much meat. Okay. That bit is bitted. We want to add the cheese to that meat mix, but we're not adding it until it has had a chance to cool off. Because I don't want the cheese to just liquefy. And we also have to check on our dough. That dough. It has enlarged. Not probably fully doubled in size, but it has embiggened. I did not time how long that had been there. If one of you did, let me know. If none of you did, then I don't care. It's just that simple. Let's make sure the worktop is clean. Four raised beds and are planning to expand to 6. I had a friend who did eggplants and planted a whole bunch of eggplants, was like, yeah, eggplants. And then got way too much eggplant and was constantly giving us eggplant. And then he planted way less eggplant after that. Because it was just like, well, I mean, we like eggplant, but it's a lot of eggplant. Okay, this guy. This guy. He's the guy. Like I said, he's not quite doubled in size. It was a pretty small ball to begin with. After that was finished proofing, turn it out. Need for 2 minutes to get rid of any air pockets. Weigh and divide it into equal pieces. A little bit of. We're just gonna punch it. Just gonna punch it down. Make sure there's no bubbles in there. Weigh it. Okay. $3.84. So mine are going to be noticeably smaller than the ones they call for. So we should do less of them. That's pretty good. My basil did really well this year, and I'm going to harvest and dry that very soon. Last year my basil did terribly, and I ended up with no basil for the winter. I had to buy store-bought dried basil, which is significantly worse. Especially since it's always crushed. You can't get full leaf. When I dried my own, I just dried the leaves. And then crushed them as needed instead of having a big jar of pre-crushed. And it made them stay way more flavorful way longer. $49. $50. $49. $48. $46. $48. $47. $45. That one's the baby one. Pretty consistent for just eyeballing those cuts, though. Let's get out a tray. And some paper. On the other hand, I tried growing oregano several times. I'm currently growing Cuban oregano, which is a succulent that tastes like oregano. And I like it way better because it's way better as a house plant. I haven't dried any of that. It dries, it does not dry well. It goes this weird, creepy, horrible color when you try to dry it. Okay, that. And we need a tea towel because we're going to work with these one at a time. I'm making 8, I guess, because that's how it weighed out. Supposedly, I set the recipe to make half of the 20 batch, so I was going to make 10. But my dough ball is smaller, so I'm only ending up with this amount. Tea towel to help protect them while we work. Don't need that anymore. We do need the pin. But yeah, I had a really hard time with oregano in the past, so I kind of gave up on oregano, regular oregano. Otherwise, my garden is all herbs and onions. And the onions are the green kind of onions, so they're also basically herbs. Oof, this is definitely a bit of a greasy meat filling, and there's also way more of it than I am going to need for this number of bao, so I will have to find something else to do with the rest of it, which shouldn't be hard because it's tasty. Oh, and if it's not blazing hot, I want to mix the cheese into it in a bowl. It looks like we dropped a couple of frames. I hope nobody noticed anything. That bowl. Just a couple. Just 29, but it's not nothing. Okay, before I roll any baos, it's hot. It's going to melt that cheese if I throw it in there now. But we want to taste this as well. Our filling mix, which certainly looks the part. Yeah. And it's not blazing hot. It's going to soften the cheese for sure. I just don't want to have any of the residuals from the pan. If I can help it. And we need to get the stove clear. Because we got to get our steamer set up. I'm going to just spread that out. Let it think about itself for a little bit. Grab the steamer. We're using the big white pan for steaming today. Get it nice and centered because it's gigantic. Because it's got a steaming plate. It came with a steaming plate. And we're going to do it with cabbage leaves. Partly because I prefer doing it with cabbage leaves, and partly because the outer leaves of this new head of cabbage I got have a little bit of damage on them, and a great thing to do with some damaged cabbage leaves is not eat them. So I'm not going to be super concerned about keeping them any kind of neat. Oops. I do want to not totally shred them though. Anybody who's come in since I last asked, which you would know because if you haven't been asked, how's it going? What's for dinner? Boy, my stream manager panel over here on the Twitch side never did catch up to the fact that I'm live. It's populating chat, it's doing notifications, it still says offline. Wow, that leaf did not want to come off at all. Thought those other ones were bad. Check this one out. Just a disaster. Just shredded. To shreds, you say? Okay. Cooking up some popcorn and calling it good, that's not a meal, that's popcorn. Although it is a whole grain, and therefore good for you, regardless of what toppings you put on it. That's the rules. Wow, these leaves don't want to come off. Got through the outer leaves, the inner leaves just do not want to come apart. Hilarious. But it's a good for you regardless of toppings snack. Not a good for you regardless of toppings meal. Two cups of water at the bottom. Could add more. 3 cups of water at the bottom. The steam will wilt down our cabbages so they aren't so tall. This thing. We're adding our cheese. I suppose I don't need to steam that right away. Because we still have to assemble the guys. That boy, it's not quite dry enough. We'll have to flour it just a little bit. Glad I didn't add more flour to the main part, but yeah, it just needs just a little bit more flour. Okay, roll out a circle, about like yay big. Take a big old scooparoo of your filling. And totally cheat on the pleats. Totally cheat on the pleats. Call it a bow. Take a bow. A little bit too much flour on that one. If you want to do the, what is it, 13 pleats for luck or however many it is, you go right ahead. I prefer the other way, where you just kind of fold it in on itself and flip it over and call it done. It's weird, these are sticking not to the pin, but to the table. First one was a little bit over floured because it didn't want to stick to itself. So I got to find a good balance where they work. Take a big old scooper of your filling. We can pleat it in a little bit, but then we're still gonna flip it over. That one's much better. The edges stuck together way nicer on that one. Make sure to round it out before we start, and then roll, roll, gentle. Roll, roll, gentle. Remember that they are slightly different sizes, so they're not all going to be able to be rolled out to exactly the same size. We're shooting for a uniform thickness rather than a uniform shape or size. Everything else can be corrected for with the folding. The thickness cannot. Get down with the thickness. Oop. Well, that will also be correct. That little tear will also be corrected by the folding. We will just fold another piece over the top of where it tore. Just make sure when you're doing that the bottom doesn't open up on you. Because if it's open now, let's double check that last one. Because if it's open now, it'll leak oil. They're both leaking. Oh, that one's leaking quite badly. The oil will prevent them from sticking to themselves in a very annoying way. Oh. This is, of course, the tedious part of doing bao. Our filling is also maybe a little on the greasy side, which I don't think is exactly going to help our situation. And my rolling pin kept hitting my bench scraper. That one's nice and round. So we're going to make sure not to dig too deep. I don't want to get any of the oil from the bottom of the bowl here onto. There is a little bit of a pool at the bottom forming because we didn't separate it or didn't super duper do it. Beer run. You had to get your beer run in. Welcome. Hello. Good to see you. Glad to know you. You're here in time for me to not really do the pleating correctly. And then I flip it over so it looks like round on top. But because I flip it over, we've already had a couple of them leak slightly. How's it going? What's up? What's for dinner besides beer? Beer could be your dinner. That's happened before. Good question. Dunno. Well, we can help you brainstorm. I often pop into other people's chats to do my recipe brainstorming. So you're welcome to brainstorm with us here. Oh yeah, you definitely want to give the middle a good firm pinch to make sure there isn't a little gap in there before you flip it over. How about a nice cold couscous tofu salad? Give you some carbs, give you some fiber, give you some protein, and also cool you off after you run. I don't know if you have either of the main ingredients in that. I think what would I want to eat after a run? I'd probably be craving something sugary just because my body would want some calories. But you shouldn't give your body some just straight up sugary stuff. Uncrustable burger, that definitely is going to lean in more of the direction of the giving into that sugary craving. But I do love an Uncrustable. That's something it would be nice to make at home. Figure out an effective way that isn't just make a sandwich and cut the crusts off. To make it, because it's not just a sandwich with the crusts cut off, it's like a little bread pouch. They're so much more clever than just, it's a sandwich with the crusts cut off. Although clearly it was next Twitch live stream for G, just that, just making Uncrustables. Just this one and then one more left. We're supposed to let these rise again once they're pleated, because it helps them seal in and it gives you that sort of nice poofy texture. Getting more and more aggressive with the fillings on these as I go. This one might have pushed it one too far. Get it pinched before any grease gets in between the dough. One of these is definitely going to kind of break open because there definitely was some leakage on more than one of them, and I'm pretty sure one of them is just going to like attempt to unfold when we cook it. That's not going to be the best. Hopefully the cheese stays in place. That's the big concern. If the cheese just melts out the bottom, then I'm going to be really sad. If all we do is lose some oil out the bottom, that'll be fine. This one's sticking. Don't stick. Oh, this one's going to be really wonderfully round, though. Okay, we should also definitely think about an appropriate sauce for this. Oop, I think I overfilled this last one too. There's no hot pepper in the mix here. I used more of the mix than I thought I was going to. I got away with really kind of filling these things up. Let's taste the mix with the cheese in it. Oh, the cheese makes it so much better. Oh, that was a good idea. Oh, that was a good idea. Especially with Gruyere. That was a good idea. I'm glad I didn't go like get a mozzarella or something. That kind of aged cheese flavor in there. World of difference. That's that fermented flavor that we weren't getting enough of other places. It's coming from the cheese. That's where we're getting it. Ooh wee, that's a good combo. Ooh wee, that's a good combo. I like that. I like that. That's good. Put that on the top of a noodles or rice or couscous or mashed potatoes. That's gonna be good. That's gonna be good. Okay, our buns are living under here. They're supposed to be permitted to rise a little bit. What does it say, 20 minutes? Let them proof for 15 minutes. So let's get our water heating up a little bit, but we're going to think about a sauce. Warm oven, that's not a bad idea. I don't want them to dry out is the thing. I'm going to put them in the window again. It's warm up there. You can leave the towel on them. Not as warm as it was. We lost the sun. I'll leave that. We're going to make a dipping sauce. Oh, I wish I had a. I wish I had. I wish I had. I wish I had a black square plate. I have to keep an eye out for a black square. They're going to come out very white, so I think they will work fine, and round. So I think they will work fine on the lined square here. Sort of pile up. But because I want a square dipping dish for our sauce, unless we did round and round, we could do round and round. If we did that. Okay, change my mind. We're not doing square, we're doing that. We're doing the golf ball and round white dish for the sauce. Now for the sauce, we want to stick to our flavor profile, but we want to do our classic combo, which is something fatty, something sweet, something savory. Something fatty, something sweet, something savory, something salty, something sour, and something spicy if you can get it in there. But those first five, that's the combo. I'm going to open up this walnut oil and see what it actually tastes like. If that's what I think it's going to be, yes, okay. Ooh, that's really tasty. Walnut oil, red wine vinegar, honey. Something fatty, something sour, something sweet, something savory. Which oftentimes is also something salty and then something spicy. Something savory. That walnut oil is really tasty. What's a savory-based sauce component that's like European in profile that I also have available right now? Because that's also a consideration. The lack of having. Gonna eyeball a tablespoon of honey. Measuring honey is difficile. Tablespoon of red wine vinegar. With the red wine bits in the bottom, I guess. We're really getting down on it. Miss Sepsi, hello. It's gonna kill this. There he is. Look at him go. He's running right now because I opened the door. And he's not making a horrible racket. It's a miracle. Since you're here, question for you. What else goes in that? Thickness is what goes in that. At the moment, equal parts honey, toasted walnut oil, and red wine vinegar. It is going to be the dipping sauce for our European-themed bao buns. And we're about to give it a little bit of a taste. It needs a savory. It needs a savory element. I'm not sure what to throw in there to be a savory element. And it could probably stand to have a spicy element. I might throw in some chili Crispies. It's very acid forward because of the vinegar right now. If I had some of that mushroom ketchup, that's a European thing. Mushroom ketchup, that'd be what it is, what I'd use. Or some HP sauce. Ooh! The toasted walnut oil is taking the place of our sesame oil. It has a similar function, different flavor profile. Worcestershire. That's like the English version of soy sauce. Kinda, sorta. That's what I said. Washashashashir. I think I know how to say washashashashir. And I'm giving it a good dollop of our chili crispies in their oil. Laugan Ma chili crispies are amazing. It feels like it wants to be thicker. By it, I mean I. And by feels, I mean wants. So it wants to be thicker. Ooh. It's got the mouth texture of like the bread, those bread dipping oils. Ooh, it's got that, wow, okay. I don't want it to be thicker. I want it to be this texture, because this texture is the texture of like those lovely bread dipping oils. It's nice. It's nice. Which means it's oily, but it's like oily and vinegary. It's nice. I'm going to give it a little bit of mustard, because I think that will help emulsify it a little bit better. Mustard acts as an emulsifier, but just a little bit. I don't want to take the flavor away too much. Mustard should have been in first. For those of you making whatever this is at home, go back to the beginning and put the mustard in first. Add the mustard to the honey. Ooh, honey mustard! Should have added some honey mustard. Okay. It's definitely got something going on. It's I think it's done. I think it's ready. We'll float some chives on it. Let's see how much steam is in our this. Probably none, because there's none coming out the hole at the side. So I'm going to say none. I'm going to cut some chives so I can float some chives. I need a couple. There's a dog out here. Hi, dog. Bye, dog. we very carefully stir those chives in a little bit. Oh, you guys are looking at the nothing. I'm gingerly cutting some chives on the top of this, and I wanted to stir some of them in as well as having some of them float. But I don't want to slosh the oil up the sides, so we have to very, very gingerly stir. This is our serving dish. Serving dish has got to be clean. There's steam. Behold, steam. Which means it's time to steam our buns. I'm getting them. I know it hasn't been as long as was prescribed, but too bad. Too bad. Steam bun time. Pot holder. Those cabbages are still kind of weird. Okay. Not sure how many are going to fit in per go. Looks like maybe 5. Oop. It looks like maybe that one is seriously going to leak on me. I could fit more. I don't want to crowd them. We can't fit them all in one go anyways, so we will do 2 goes. That's when we need to time stuff as well. Oh, we're supposed to do all of them at once. Shoot. Ow. I touched it. Ow. We're making room by taking the thing out. Should have done it at the start. Crap. Okay, well. Well, that was not correct. Okay, now we have 15 minutes to kill. For real this time. Because they have to steam for 15 minutes, and then they have to rest for 5 minutes so that they don't deflate. During which it's not going to get hot enough in there to actually cook the contents, which is why we have to cook. It was not hot enough to cook meat, which is why we had to pre-cook the meat. If you were doing this with shrimp, I bet you could get away with just mincing it up and throwing it in there. But I've got a timer set for this one so that I don't lose track of it. very, very low on Worcestershire sauce. And I'm going to take this opportunity to tidy up. Since stuff just needs to cook at the moment. There's no pressing anythings that I need to think about. Well, I'm pretty darn confident that we're going to have tasty food today, because I have been tasting as I went, which you should always do. I frequently don't, especially for the show here, so that I can have a taste test moment at the end. But if you're not sure about what something's going to taste like while you're cooking it, you should be tasting it. Because then you can make adjustments before it's too late. I've many a time right here with you guys said, oh, this could have used such and such. And if I had tasted it earlier, I would have identified that early enough to make the change. Well, I'm glad a lot of you turned up on Thursday. I know Thursday's not our typical day, and you all know why as well. The dropping stuff. But you know, whenever you're on an odd day, you're thinking, is anybody even going to show up? Is anybody going to show up at all? So, thanks everybody for hanging around with me today. I really appreciate it. I really didn't want to skip another week after we just skipped one. And this was the day that was available, so this was the day I had to do it. But again, I was a little worried. This is gonna be like, who's this guy on a Thursday? Blah, blah, blah. Just putting dishes away. We're not even cleaning anything right now. We're putting dishes away so that I can later wash more dishes. The never-ending battle. It's the never-ending story of more dishes. Dish world. Oh, it's getting kind of warm in here too. It got hot today again. I thought we were supposed to have nicer weather, but I suppose it's not hot. Dishes and laundry. I also did laundry today. So yes, that also happened. We didn't quite hit 80, so it's not like it was hot, but compared to the last couple of days when it has been just extremely pleasant, being 78 plus is like, oh man, I thought it was going to be nice. A couple days ago it was 65. The high was 65. It was so nice. It was just like, beautiful. New fridge came with a free ice tray, which I'm not using right now because I didn't have a place to put it because I just had to crudely jam all my frozen stuff in there. And didn't leave myself room for an ice cube tray. They smell good. They're going to stick together. Those two on the side are definitely going to be too close to each other and are going to stick together. That's going to be a little bit of an annoyance. We can probably get around that with the plating. I'm hoping they're going to really poof up. That's our goal. We want nice, round, poofed up buns. After 15 minutes, turn off the heat, keep the lid on, and let the buns rest for 5 minutes before opening the lid. Missing this step will cause them to collapse. We don't want that. We want nice, poofed up buns. Am I smelling melting cheese? Oh, it smells good. It smells good. It smells yeasty. It smells bready. Let's see. We can put the sherry away. I got lucky on sherry on the discount rack. A couple different kinds of sherry. One of them is the dry sherry. That's the one we use for cooking. But I also got some sweet sherry, which is just an aperitif. Or a digestif, I forget which one sherry is supposed to be. But also, it's real tasty. It was a $3 bottle of sherry. The rest of the filling could go well as a pizza topping. There's already the cheese mixed into it. I was thinking like on top of rice, on top of noodles, just a very basic, like I'm gonna throw it on top of something. But yes, if I did a rolled out dough, sauced, topped, that would be good. That would be, or a calzone, because it's already a filling type thing. Add a little bit more cheese to it. Maybe. Yes. Not obviously right this second. In fact, I'm going to get out a container and contain it right this second. Since I am just killing a little bit of time while we steam our buns. It is very tasty. It's also quite on the fatty side, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's something you have to be aware of when using this stuff. And that is a factor of ground veal. Ground veal is generally very fatty. Which makes it a pretty good stand-in for ground pork, which is also typically very fatty. Likewise with lamb. So they can kind of swap in for each other, but you do have to be cognizant that they're going to produce a good amount of rendered out fat, which can be positive or negative, but you don't want to add a bunch more fat. Mix in some mushrooms if you use it as a calzone. Ooh, yes. Yes. I got 4 minutes. We're filling all of the bowls with water so that their various filling contents don't harden up on me. Stack up the pans. Especially want the one that had the dough to not harden up, because if you let your dough bowl get crusty, it becomes a real pain to decrust it enough to wash it. You either gotta soak it or you gotta scrub it. So I'm gonna pre-soak it so that later I can just wipe it down. Okay, and that already makes my kitchen look a lot better. I've also got half an onion there. I could throw the other half of the onion in to bulk it out a little bit. Give it some veg. I've also got some broccoli. Just telling you, I've also got some broccoli. Oh, I missed one. Oh, this was the one that just had the plain flour in it. I am going to just rinse that one, because all it had was dry flour, which will easily rinse away like that. And that one only had plain water in it, so I put that directly there. Yeah, okay. Mess isn't looking too bad at all. The mess looks very well managed for a change. You guys have been looking at nothing for a while. You should have been looking at the back of my head. I could have taken the big one. What's our total? My Twitch panel still says offline. It's got all the notifications, it's got all the text, the messages, it's got my updated title, it's got all of my buttons enabled. It's even giving me like real-time viewer counts, bitrate, all that sort of stuff. And then offline. just Twitch got a Twitch, I guess. Okay, what are we looking at for our time? Under a minute. 45 seconds, in fact. We're just gonna move the whole shebang over to the other side burner here to get it off the heat, rather than let it rest on the hot coil. So, off, and then we just move it. That's our beep. And 5 minutes of resting. Okay. Gosh, and I've already thought about the plating. I've already made the sauce. Yeah. And I'm not going to open up and peek until we are ready to go on it. I don't want to risk deflating, so we won't know if we've had any major ruptures until the 5 minutes are up. Find my phone so that I can take a picture of this thing. Oh, actually, find my phone. That's what I'll do in the next 5 minutes. Where did I put you, phone? Where are you? Where are you? Did I leave it in the car? I might have left it in the car. I might have left it in the car. We're going to go out and check real quick. Ooh, my grapevine's growing back. Yep, left it in the car. Probably walked out of radio range there. Some of my basil's looking a little wilty. I have to water that. So I've had a grapevine growing up here. It just volunteered itself, or a bird volunteered it, right next to the kitchen steps there. And I figured it's a grape, I'll just let it grow. And it had been just sort of plugging along for a couple of years. This year, it went absolutely ballistic. It was reaching up to the roof, it was grabbing the power lines, it was just everywhere. Landlord said, that vine's got to go. So I cut it and ripped it all down. But I didn't dig the roots out. I cut it and ripped it all down. The trunk bit, the bottom of the vine, is still there. And it's resprouting. It's got leaves all over it, and it's got shooting out new little creeper feelers. So hopefully, maybe I can cultivate it so that it doesn't take over the house, but I can get grapes. That'd be nice. It is a little bit close to the door. It's going to have a hard time not just grabbing the house. Grapevines tend to be quite aggressive growers. But we'll see. 2 minutes left on our timer. And then the challenging bit of getting them out of there without destroying them. We might not get all of them on the plate if it becomes an issue. And we'll see if any of them have burst. Somebody chatted at me. Beer Runner joined the Discord. Hi. One minute. So, letting it cool in the steam, I'm guessing, is so that the bubbles that have expanded to form that nice poofy mass can set before the steam that's inside them dissipates. Because if they're still soft and pliant, when the steam goes, then they just collapse. But if they're set and they've got their structure to them, then they'll stay poofy. So even when the steam collapses inside of them, because they're not perfectly well sealed, so the steam can escape, but also means that they aren't just going to be crushed by the vacuum of pressure collapse. Beep, beep. That's it. Now we're going to find out. Now we're going to find out if any of these exploded. Ooh, well, we definitely had some deflations, and they also definitely got bigger. That one deflated. That one deflated quite badly. They don't look amazing. They look very deflated. We're going to bring our plating plate over and attempt to extract them some of the better ones intact. I worry that the deflation in part might be that the some of the filling has crept out the bottom. But our seal on the bottom is looking pretty good for our first one there. Oh yeah, even that one, that's the worst one. You can see where the seam didn't quite crack, but there's no evidence of like cheese goo coming out the bottom. That's also the one that deflated the most. Put that one toward the back. Oop, this one has evidence of some damage because there is a little puddle of meat dripping right next to it. So that guy leaked a little bit of his meat juice, but I don't see, again, no sign of cheese leak, which is the thing I was the most afraid of. Also, they didn't stick to each other, which I'm very happy about. You believe this recipe wanted me to make 20 of these things? I made 8, and it's still like a ton. So they're not perfect. Definitely, I think our greasy filling impacted their ability to... okay, those two have stuck together. Those two have stuck together, so I will need some creative accounting to get them out of here without tearing them open. They need to not be stuck to the cabbage. They're not so badly stuck that I wouldn't be able to get them out, but I don't want them to tear because I want them to be decoratively near the front of my plate. Yes, that is the thing. We are going to... We plate them up. We have an uneven plating. We plate them up. We take a nice photo for the Discord. And then we come back and we taste them. And I think I want to... So... this is going to be our front. They are definitely steam buns. They are steamy buns. I think we're going to cut one open for the plating. Ooh, ooh. We probably could have proofed them longer. I think that might be what caused them to be a little bit flat. But they look pretty good. No grated cheese on top. Good idea. I'm going to stick with the cheese on the inside. I'm going to trust the process at this stage. Also because I'm hungry and I want to start eating. So we take our photo. I definitely loaded them up. They are full, full, full. Yeah, having that one split on the top kind of covers up the fact that ideally this plate would have wanted 9 of them. Okay. And then we tuck in. For starters, I'm just going to take a bite of an existing one. They're hot. Mmm. Mmm. That is a good combo. That is a good combo. It's rich. It's very, like, rich. It's got a really coats your mouth with a fatty, savory. It's much more meat forward than I think the Chinese pork bun typically is. And I'm gonna go ahead and say that a big part of that is because we added way less in terms of the savory, salty, fermented sauces, which are great for just amping up a whole bunch of savoriness, but I don't think the veal needs it. I think pork is much more of a blander flavor and benefits better there. I think this is a better stance for the veal, which has more of a almost slightly sweet savoriness to it. Take another nibble. Oh, it's hot. It's salty. It's a little bit salty. It's a little bit sweet. It's very like richness forward, which goes well with the chewy, slightly spongy bread. I do think we underproofed the bread, and I might have rolled them out a little bit too thin because they didn't really poof quite as much as I was hoping for. That's probably down to practice. They taste fine. It's just a little bit less, it's a little bit flatter. Now we've got to try it with our dip. Mmm. Mmm. That's really good. That's really good. It adds more fattiness. It adds more richness. This is a very rich fatty thing. But it balances it. It balances it with the vinegar. Oh, the vinegar flavor is carrying the day. It cuts that richness, even though the sauce is adding more fatty richness. The vinegar and a little bit of spice that's in it kind of breaks through, and it makes you just want to eat more. It's definitely the kind of thing where you just want to eat more, which is dangerous. But also, that's kind of the goal of something like this. It's just, I want to eat more of this. And yeah, the eagle-eyed amongst you will notice that when I'm really enjoying it, I tend to pace. I pace a little bit, regardless, just because it helps me put my thoughts together. But when I'm really enjoying it, I tend to pace over here and pace over here and pace over here. Ooh. So, other than needing a little bit of practice on the actual bao, because they're a wee bit on the flat side, the flavors are on point. The flavors are so good. Per my earlier discussion about veal, source it ethically, which is doable, which I have done, and it's really tasty. Which is kind of the reason it's persisted despite all the ethical concerns, is because it is like really tasty. But if you would rather not, then just make the same thing but with pork. Or if you'd rather not that, then we could probably put together a decent tofu. Or mushrooms. Tofu and mushroom. Tofu and mushrooms. Anyways, point is, play around with the fillings. I will say that the cheese, when I tasted it after having just mixed in the cheese, you could really taste distinctly that cheesy funk flavor. Not so now. It's definitely providing some more richness, more creaminess. But that cheesy funk flavor it's still there, but it's way less prominent. But we didn't leak it out. It just kind of melded into the other fatty components in there. Because we would have seen it in the pan if it had melted out the bottoms. So, I'm going to greatly enjoy this, especially since I had quite a light lunch. So I'm going to attack these things. Anyways, happy Thursday. Happy new fridge. Look at him. He's white now. Thanks, all of you, for showing up on this, a Thursday, to join with me on this, a Thursday. I'm going to have to put something here or futz with my brightness settings because, boy, you can tell how the room looks kind of darker than normal. It's because this big white space is causing the camera to think there's a lot extra light. So I'll have to futz with that on my own time. Anyways, we're gonna wrap up and raid out. Once again, thanks to Bookwoman and Glacier for the subs. Let's see who's on a Thursday. Who's even on a Thursday? Oh, well, okay. We've been raiding this direction quite a lot lately, and I'm not changing things now. Our friend Room and Board, our friend Chef de Cuisine, he's doing a kitchen clean out day, a fridge clean out day. So we're gonna go say hi. We've been really enjoying. I've been really enjoying getting into another chef here on the old Twitch.tv. Pause that. Ryu has got our raid messages up. Little Dancing Dinos if you are not subbed, and the Little Happy Jupiter Phases if you are subbed. Dinner with Mom. You can't escape me. You get shouted at. Check out Dinner with Mom, who is also a Twitch cook, chef. You make some good stuff too. You're not on right now though, so I can't rate you. I guess put a pin in Monday, because Monday's Labor Day here in the United of States. So that might throw a wrench into things. I'll stream sometime next week. That's all I can tell you at this juncture. Okay.